I want to explain how your brain and body actually work, and why you cannot change your life instantly by desire alone. Although such changes are possible, I will teach you how to shape your future as precisely as a surgeon prepares for an operation. But first, we must understand why you keep holding on to the past. It's time to learn how to influence your inner state and take control of your destiny and your thoughts. Every morning, people wake up and immediately begin replaying their problems. These problems are chains of memories stored in the brain, each linked to certain people, objects, times, and places. If the brain constantly replays the recordings of the past, then from the very beginning of the day, a person falls back into the archive of old experience. And every memory carries an emotion, because emotions are the chemical residue of past experiences. The moment you recall your problems, you relive the same feelings: unhappiness, sadness, pain, discomfort. Let's summarize. Your thoughts and feelings create your state. When you start the day with the past, you remain in the same emotional state you once experienced. And here is what that means. Your familiar past eventually becomes your predictable future. The most important thing you must understand is this: if you cannot think about anything beyond what you've already lived, if you cannot break free from the emotional residue of fatigue, your emotions will not allow you to move forward. You become stuck in a past that is no longer part of your life. There is only one conclusion. In most cases, you keep creating the same reality because the spectrum of your problems won't let you go. What happens next? Many people grab their phones, check chats, WhatsApp, Instagram, and other messengers, take photos of themselves, their food, their purchases, post them, write on Twitter, read the news, scroll through other people's images, all to feel different for a moment, to escape into a life where these problems don't exist. But then they must return to their usual concerns. They get out of bed on the same side, go to the bathroom, drink coffee, or take a shower, get dressed, drive to work along the same route, see the same people. By pressing the same emotional buttons, they turn life into routine, and for some, into a program they cannot escape. People lose their freedom because of their own programming. No external force controls us. Each person creates their own destiny. And when the moment for change arrives, this endlessly repeating cycle becomes the obstacle. All of this happens at the subconscious level, and breaking such a program is extremely difficult. As a result, 95% of who you are by age 35 is a memorized set of behaviors, emotional reactions, unconscious habits, programmed beliefs, and perceptions. All of this functions like a well-written computer code. And only 5% of your conscious mind says, I want to be healthy, happy, free. But the body is deeply accustomed to the old program and will not change because of a small percentage of new thoughts. And now, understanding the problem, we arrive at the main question. How do you begin real change, release the past, and erase this outdated program? I'll tell you directly, you must go beyond the analytical mind, because it is the barrier between the conscious and the subconscious. This is why meditation exists. It is not a trendy practice for social media, but a tool that teaches you to alter and direct brain waves, slow them down, and become aware. When you learn to manage your thoughts and live in the present instead of returning to the past again and again, you can rewrite your program as precisely as a surgeon performs an operation. This is how you create truly profound change in your life. Many people live expecting crises, trauma, illness, and diagnoses. They live anticipating loss, believing that only tragedy can force them to change. I want to give you a different message. Why wait until you reach a breaking point? You can learn to control joy, inspiration, and other emotions yourself. You can always make a new choice and leave the past behind. The most frightening thing today is that most people wake up and lose up to 70% of their time to routine existence. They live in survival mode, in stress, constantly expecting the worst because they rely solely on past experience. This robs them of infinite possibilities, even on the quantum level. Do you really want to live expecting the worst? This is how emotions form. Fear arises, and the body sinks into a state of stress. The scientific fact is worth repeating. The body never experiences a panic attack without impulses coming from the mind. Things can reach a point where you no longer understand your own state, because you have subconsciously programmed yourself and become dependent on your emotions and fears, losing awareness. In resisting change, a person uses their problems and circumstances as proof of their supposed weakness. Let me remind you that weakness does not exist. Sometimes people become addicted to negative emotions, waiting for the next emotional spike just to feel something. When you ask them why they're like this, the answer is simple. Every time they recall past events, their brain and body trigger a chemical reaction as if everything is happening again. Old neural circuits activate and reproduce the same negative outcome and the same emotions. In essence, the body and the subconscious are one and the same. If you mentally replay past events in detail, you inevitably relive the same emotions. The body does not distinguish whether something is happening now, yesterday, or years ago. It simply reproduces the state. This is why thoughts can literally make the body sick, anxious, irritated, or sad. When you realize you need to let go of these sensations, you understand that you want to, but you can't. And that's correct. You have already trained the body differently. The servant has become the master. The body dictates which memories you relive because it feels predictability in them. You sink into this whirlpool because it is easier. The unknown is frightening because it means uncertainty. People often say the future cannot be predicted. I respond, the best way to predict your future is to create it. You don't need ready-made scripts. You can write them yourself. What thoughts do you want to imprint in your brain? What behavior do you want to embody today? The brain does not distinguish between remembering the past and imagining the future. It simply sends signals to the body. When you think positively and mentally move towards success, the body adjusts and forms a better state. This is how you begin to build new neural connections, as if good events have already happened. The mistake is using the brain only as a storage of the past, when it is capable of being a tool for creating the future. By continuing to change your internal settings, you disable the old program and begin writing a new story. You may even start behaving like a genuinely happy person. The hardest part is emotionally preparing the body for the future before returning to processing past experiences. So what does this mean in practice? You live in expectation, expecting that success will one day fill you with energy, that money will finally bring abundance, that a moment will come when everything falls into place. You stand at the starting line telling yourself, not yet, it's too early. This is the outdated cause and effect model, passively waiting for something external to come and change your life. But let's look deeper. In those moments when you already feel good, internally and externally, when you begin to notice people, events, and details that make you calmer, happier, more confident, you start to understand the source of that state. And once you understand the source, You gain the ability to amplify and reproduce it again and again. From the perspective of classical Newtonian thinking, a person spends their whole life waiting for a cause that will allow them to become happy. First, an event must happen, then the feeling appears. I'm talking about a different model, the quantum model, in which you can change your state first and the result follows. You become worthy, successful, strong not when the external world confirms it, but the moment you internally choose it. Once the readiness to act differently appears inside, a new path begins. Nothing external has more power over you than you yourself. And if you decide that you are capable, resilient, and valuable, you begin to express exactly those qualities. Realizing this is the boundary where the victim mindset ends and the author of your life begins. You've surely heard stories where people say, "I became who I am because this person believed in me." It sounds inspiring, but it's fundamentally incorrect. A person changes the moment they allow themselves to change. No one can make you feel anything, because all emotions are born inside your mind. Yes, someone may support you, but the final decision is always made by you. When you truly understand this, you become the creator of your world. You begin to clearly see, my thoughts and my feelings shape the trajectory of my destiny. This is a qualitatively different level of awareness. And at that moment, one of the most powerful realizations in life arrives. The creator of your reality is only you. There's one more thing you must understand. Having a negative thought does not mean it is true. Thoughts are not facts. But if you return to the same thoughts about the past 60 to 70 times a day, as most people do, and if up to 90% of your thinking is a repetition of old scenarios, you are essentially allowing the past to control your future. You should not be surprised by the lack of change if every day you choose the same thing. The same thinking creates the same behavior, which creates the same experience, which triggers the same emotions, which brings you back to the same point. This is why awareness is so important. You must learn to notice how you think, how you react, and what states you live in. This process is called metacognition, the ability to observe your own thinking. Why is this so important? Because the higher your awareness, the more choices you have. And where there is choice, there is power. Gradually, as you become familiar with the thoughts, reactions, and emotions of your old self, you begin to clearly see what it's time to let go of. When new thoughts enter consciousness, the body begins to adjust to a new emotional state. And if you repeat this often enough, the new state becomes natural and effortless. Imagine you want to create a beautiful garden. You wouldn't start by planting flowers in unprepared soil. First, you remove the weeds, loosen the earth, create conditions. The same happens with interchange. For something new to appear, space must be freed. When you are in an uncomfortable state, you unconsciously absorb enormous amounts of unnecessary information. Any event triggers the victim mode, and you begin endlessly analyzing what happened, overloading the brain with useless recordings. Reality stops satisfying you, and you try to escape into thoughts, distractions, illusions. This is how you lose contact with yourself. Instead, it is important to learn to stay in the present moment and consciously use it to your advantage. If you have no clear vision of the future, life becomes predictable and perception freezes in the past. A gray space forms around you, where each day resembles the previous one. The same routes, the same faces, the same actions at the same time. This gradually creates an environment that begins to subtly influence your thoughts and emotions. It is inevitable because every person, every object, every action carries an emotional imprint. Any interaction triggers a reaction. Some use conversations to assert themselves, others to confirm their pain, to prove they're victims, or simply to release accumulated tension. Most often, this happens within the closest circle. From here comes an important realization. To change means to change your environment. Not all people, but specifically those who systematically bring negativity into your life. But even more important is learning to rise above circumstances, above emotions, above external conditions. Yes, difficulties happen, but must we drown in them? When change feels especially difficult, meditation becomes a powerful tool. Here's why. When you sit down, close your eyes, and disconnect from external stimuli, the brain reduces its level of arousal. It stops reacting to people and objects, and internal tension begins to fade. In that moment, you regain control over yourself. It is important to learn to manage the body, to calm it or activate it when needed. Every step you take is the result of your choice. When the body tries to return to its old emotional state, remind yourself, thoughts determine the direction of your energy. If you sink back into the past, your energy flows there, leaving only the minimum needed for survival in the present. The body always seeks predictability, even if it is painful. It prefers familiar states. But you have a mind, and that is your greatest advantage. So learn to tell your body, no, I don't need stress in this situation. I don't need resentment just because someone misunderstood me. Simple verbal acknowledgement forms a new perception. Step by step, training your attention and reactions, you begin moving toward a stable state. Over time, the body stops overriding the mind, and you gain control over your inner state and your responses to the external world. I have seen this countless times, and I sincerely hope that you and your loved ones will see and experience it too. If you feel ready to go beyond old programs, learn to manage your state, and truly change your life, then you're already on the right path. Subscribe to the channel The Power of the New Self. Here we talk about consciousness, thinking, and inner transformations that reshape reality. Don't postpone change. Begin creating your new self today.